All right. Welcome to another episode of the Safety Podcast by Responsible Parents for Wilson School Board. With us again is Officer Johnson and, of course, the lovely Lisa Marie Stonehouse. And today, Lisa Marie, correct me if I'm not wrong, but today we're going to focus on external threats.
Yes, external threats.
So where do you want to start with that? It's and really, well, I mean, I guess I'll tell you where I would like to start, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I had never, until probably about 3 weeks ago, I had never even heard of meetup points. Mm-hmm. And off camera, you and I, Officer Johnson, were talking about how businesses should be considering this,
Correct.
how basically all organizations, anybody that has people congregate, should have this kind of a plan for this, but especially schools. Yes. So how do you guys approach that as a police force, like educating people and getting them in tune to that?
So our department has 3 officers, myself, Matt Kaiser, and Jim Matthews. We do what's called active shooter training, and part of that conversation, whether it's a business of 5 employees, 50, or several hundred, the school district employs well over 1,000. You come into Spring Township, some of these businesses employ hundreds of workers. Mm-hmm. So the initiative should be there that you're going to be responsible for every employee, and that revolves around communication and conversations. That we promote as a police department that we live in a technology where everyone has cell phones. You should have their cell phone number. You should be able to call or text your employees. And part of the Wilson School District is when you look at Whitfield, and we'll use that for example, Cornwall Terrace, you're landlocked. There is a lot of residential areas surrounding our schools, and we know that with our rally points and where we're going to conduct our reunification, that if you have a teacher who leaves the building with, we'll just use 20 students, that if they're cutting across Burke's Place into that development, because there might be here gunfire or the violent act is occurring, right. You might have people that are home from work or retired people that open their doors and say, come on in, like it's a safe place. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And in a minute like that, you're going to go in and you might not be thinking, oh, I've got to call the police or I've got to call my principal. So that's where we look and we go, okay, we're missing 25 kids and a teacher. Okay, let's look at our book. Okay, this is so-and-so's phone number. Call. Oh, yeah, I'm at this house. Ma'am, where am I at? I'm at 123 Main Street or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, now we know where we'll send some officers over, make sure the kids are accounted for. Business is the same thing. If you have a situation, and again, off camera, we talked about a business that I just recently did an active shooter training with. There's about 50 employees, and again, are you accounting for your people? What if you have 42 people and you're missing 8? In a chaotic situation, there's a lot of activity, a lot of law enforcement, fire department. You have other businesses, people showing up, the media. It's hard just to look across the room and say, oh yeah, they're over there. They could be long gone. They could have driven off. They could have ran to another business. Mm-hmm. They could have called somebody and got picked up. So you want to be able to communicate with your employees and say, where are you? Like, we're concerned. Oh, I went home. I got so scared I just went home. I didn't think of calling anybody. Mm-hmm.
I feel like it might almost be harder with adults.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
At least with the kids, you've got a teacher who's a natural leader who's in tune to the plan.
Yeah. Right.
At a business with 50 people, everybody thinks they're the smartest one in the room. They're all going to just do whatever they think is right and scatter.
Right, and I think a lot of times you should be maybe quarterly having conversations with your employees about this. Things happen. We know we live in a world where there are violent acts occurring, and it doesn't matter what your business is, they're occurring. You should have conversation with your employees of this. Like, what are we going to do? Does anyone have any ideas of better securing this facility? Again, off camera, we talked about, if you're in the medical field or accounting field, contact those businesses that maybe border you, Spring, Wyomissing, wherever they are, and reach out and maybe meet quarterly or once or twice a year just to have those conversations of, hey, what are you doing at your facility if you have somebody that is going to be going into surgery and they're under anesthesia and they're obviously not able to act for themselves? What are you doing to help those people out?
Right.
We talked about if you have a first floor business, things are going to look different if you have a medical facility that has 1 floor compared to a medical facility that has 3 floors.
Yeah.
You get into the elevators. Can you put people in elevators and lock the elevator? Yeah. If you can wheel people in, if you have people with special needs that maybe can't get out, put them in an elevator and lock yourself in. But again, the communication part is, yes, we're going to check the elevators, but call somebody and say, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on. I'm locked in an elevator. I've got 4 employees. I've got 4 patients with me. I've got 4 kids with me. Right. So again, a lot is communication with those people, and you want to have those tools in place prior to an active incident occurring.
Now, so it sounds like, from a business standpoint, every business should have their own plan based off of some good practices.
Yes.
Should every school have their own plan, or should schools pretty much all kind of be following the same roadmap?
We are trying as a county to make sure we follow the same roadmap, because we know that, for example, there's about 70 different municipalities in Berks County, and maybe 45 or 50 of those municipalities have 24-hour law enforcement. So if something was to happen, and we'll just use a hypothetical, like an incident occurs at Wyomissing, you're not going to just have Wyomissing police showing up. You're going to have Spring Township, West Reading,
Right.
the city of Reading, Shillington, other departments coming to help this agency out. We all want to be on the same page of how things are handled.
Gotcha.
So school districts, police departments should be working and coordinating things. And part of that comes from the BCIU also, that we're all on the same page, that all the school districts in Berks County are working off the same type of platform, as well as a law enforcement response to that. Because you don't want, Spring Township going into Wyomissing and us practicing something different than Wyomissing, and them there'd be a lot of confusion and possibly somebody getting hurt. So we all want to do the same type of thing. So for Berks County, the IU sort of leads that, and it's sort of like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Now, again, you're going to tweak things maybe here and there because of the layout of the building, or different things that might attribute to you just changing it up a little bit. You're not going to go and deviate the whole plan, but you're going to this might work a little bit better for us. Let's do this, you know. So you'll tweak it a little bit, but everyone should be responding to the same type of, idea that, yes, this is how we're going to handle it.
So here's the number one thing I hear about that is, if we make our plan public and it's the same for everybody, then someone who wants to do bad things is going to know the plan.
Right.
And is that something you guys worry about, or is that kind of an overinflated argument? It seems like it comes out of nowhere. I don't see any evidence that people are masterminding events.
I always feel if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whether you roll something out and make it public knowledge or not, somebody's going to find something out. Do we see it? Again, knock on wood, we don't have these type of incidents here, though we know it can occur. You roll certain things out to the public, and certain things you keep under your hat. You don't want to let them know about different types of maybe responses by law enforcement, even though we read in the paper, or we see on the news, of how law enforcement should be responding to these. But we have our own set of policies and procedures for that we don't just roll out to everybody.
Okay.
So let's talk about, and I know we've been very fortunate to not have an event like that locally, but let's say we do in the unfortunate event. What should parents do and not do? Because one of the things we talked about earlier is your gut reaction as a parent is to go to the school, get your kid. And we watched what happened in Texas, and the parents and the fight with police, and it got ugly. What can parents do? What should they do and what should they not do?
It's easy for me to sit here and say, do this, don't do that. But in the heart of the moment, when the adrenaline's flowing, the emotions are flowing, you might not remember it. The easiest thing for us to say is, please don't go to that facility. If it's at a school or a house of worship, the best thing that you can do, and I know it's hard to sit here and say, don't do that because your child's in there. I understand that. But on a law enforcement response, you're going to have multiple agencies, and probably most, if not all, the police departments in Berks County are one-man cars. We don't double up. So if we have 10 officers going to a building, it's probably going to be 10 police cars. So again, you're having a lot of vehicular traffic coming into a certain area by emergency responders. And again, like I said a few minutes ago, you're going to have a lot of entities responding. So you might have, just say 30 or 40, we use Spring Township, for example, where we have a heavy law enforcement presence because we border other jurisdictions that have 24-hour law enforcement. So you might have 30, 35 vehicles showing up, and they're trying to get there as you're blocking, the entrance to get in there. And again, we're carrying a lot of different things. We might have to go in with an assault rifle, a shield. We have armored plates that we wear for long guns if somebody was to shoot at us. So in those way, I think easily 50 pounds. So again, you have an officer who's carrying maybe a lot of different things. So you're sort of slowing our process down. The best thing to do is there's going to be communication through the Code Red system, through the township, through any type of school district or law enforcement. Now again, remember, we're responding to a critical incident, so you don't have somebody who's going to be maybe tweeting out or right away, but we are going to be able to do that. But again, it's an emergency response to that situation. So I would say stay tuned to any type of social media, maybe radio broadcast. Try not to saturate that area.
Okay.
Stay away as best you can. We will do our best, whether it's a school, a house of worship, or just a business, to eliminate that threat and then start checking on the people that are possibly injured.
Now, for anybody that doesn't know, how does the Code Red system work?
The code red through the township is, for example, if we have a situation occurring in Drexelwood, the township will put out a phone call to the residents in that area.
Okay.
We'll just use, for example, like there's police activity, please stay in your home. Colleges use it. If there's an incident occurring, they'll send out like a tweet or a text or something, like there's something occurring at, maybe not even on campus. It could be off campus. But again, they're going to send out, the Code Red will send out an alert. There's police activity, or maybe we're going to say what's going on. There's a bank robbery at this bank. Please avoid the area.
Gotcha.
So again, that would come out through the township to let people know. And again, depending on what's occurring, we'll use the school district. It could go out to the whole township because we have so many different campuses in different parts of the area. It could be some confusion. Because you know how that would be. Somebody, send something out, says, "Oh, well, I'm not sure if it's Shiloh Hills or at Spring Ridge."
Yeah.
So that Code Red would hopefully be more definitive. Like, yes, we have an incident occurring at this school.
Gotcha.
So please avoid the area until law enforcement contacts you.
So what about proactive, right? What are things parents can do that get their kids prepared for, there's a fine line, especially when they're young, between scaring them but keeping them safe. So what advice would you give for parents to prepare their kids for this?
I would say, first off, there are so many websites that you can go on to that deal with any type of violent incidents.
Okay.
And it's almost, I researched a little bit because I knew we were going to discuss this, that they're almost age appropriate.
Okay.
So if you have children who, we use a hypothetical number of 10 years old, the conversation you're going to have with a 10-year-old is much different than a 17-year-old.
Yes.
So again, use these websites as a resource because they're not just school oriented. When we do these active shooter presentations at businesses, like I tell people, yes, you're at work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, but that doesn't mean when you walk out the door that you forget everything that law enforcement has just told you, because this is stuff that you can use in a public setting.
Yeah.
If you go to a mall, a food store, a house of worship, you want to be prepared for these types of things. So again, as a law enforcement officer telling somebody, you want to go onto these websites and have candid conversations with your child or children and say, look, this is how you should react to this. And again, a 10-year-old is going to not understand the adult world the way we see it.
Yeah.
But again, there are websites that are appropriate that you can have conversations and sort of start instilling that. And again, that's going to be sort of like your stepping stone. So maybe at age 10, you have a conversation with your son and your daughter. At age 11, 12, 13, you're going to build on that. And the children are going to be subjected to what we see in the news outlets. No matter how much you try to hide that, we're still seeing those things. So again, these kids understand what's going on in the world. You have to prepare them for those things. And again, it's stepping stones. You're not just going to come out to a kid and say, okay, this is what we do. You're going to build on that. Yeah. And you're going to say, hey, these are the resources. You need to pay attention to what's going on in the real world. And it can happen anywhere. Again, I think in one of our last podcasts, we talked about, sitting in restaurants or being attuned to what's going on with people. Are they, in the middle of summer and I've got shorts on, it's a 90-degree day, and a t-shirt and sandals, and you have a guy walking around with a long sleeve coat on, or a long sleeve jacket or a hood. That doesn't mean that there's an active incident going to occur, but why is that person doing it? And again, we've talked about this. Could it be mental instability? Could there be some dependency issues in alcohol and drugs? Of course, it can be. But look at that, assess it, and then move on. And again, but I think parents should be having these conversations because it's not just school; it's everywhere. We see it; it's occurring everywhere. So you should be mentally prepared and preparing your family for these types of incidents.
Yeah. Well, I know I unfortunately was at an organization that had an active shooter come in and unfortunately took many lives of customers and our employees. And afterwards we did an assessment, and it was amazing, just the little things like how we had badges to get in, but we would hold the door because it's, and we talked about this, like we were raised to be polite, right? And so to slam the door, like I know at our daughter's daycare, like, I like it's that like moment, like, do I slam the door in their face or do I hold the door open? But it's a secure, like that was a huge security breach, or doors that would be propped open because somebody was coming in and out, and just things that you don't even think about. Are those kind of assessments done at schools and looked at?
Yeah, and regretfully, we live in that world where you're going to hold the door for somebody. It's just sort of, second nature. You go, oh, somebody's behind, I'm going to hold the door. But again, those are things that you try to instill in your employees, not just at a school level.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know what's occurring. Like I've told businesses specifically, we all live our personal lives, and some people air out their personal lives more than others. But, you have to have some communication. If you're having trouble at home and there's a possible issue that could occur, then yes, you need to tell somebody, because you might think everything's okay, and we'll use a husband and wife situation. There's problems at home, and the husband shows up at work, and maybe the employees know him, like, oh yeah, just let him in, there's no problem. And he's there with maybe ill intentions. So again, yes, schools, businesses should be employing those types of things, because again, we don't know what goes on. Like me, I'm a pretty private guy. I don't tell everybody my business, but again, that doesn't mean that if there's a problem, somebody should know about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You should go to somebody. It's a higher. Say, listen, I'm having some personal issues at home. I'm afraid my husband, my wife, my significant other might show up here and cause a problem. It doesn't mean it's going to be violent, but maybe the person could show up and just cause a problem, a verbal confrontation with anybody. So again, the propping of doors, the sort of letting the door shut behind you. Let somebody get buzzed in or swipe them in. We should be doing that more of a practice, but again, it's hard. We grew up, and again, I'm 49 years old. I grew up with holding the door for people.
Yeah.
You're sort of instilling that. Now you're saying to people, hey, we have to be not rude, but you don't know who's coming into your business.
And I got to be honest, I can't. So what I've done is I kind of assess who's behind me.
Right.
And if it's a woman with like a 3-year-old in her arm and holding a baby carrier and there's a baby in it, I can't do it. I can't close the door. I literally, I've tried, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I feel like my mom would start yelling at me from some corner of the building. But I think that's okay as long as you're being aware of your surroundings. Like, clearly that person is a very low risk individual, and especially if you know them. Now, if you've got a guy, no kids, walking up behind you, that's, I kind of treat it differently. And maybe that's wrong. It's probably rude to him, but I'm like, good luck, champ. And then I move on. But
that's a good point, Greg. I mean, assess the situation. That's part of a development of what's going on around you. Again, like you said, if you have a lady carrying a baby and, of course, you're probably going to hold the door, but you have somebody come in who maybe is dressed a little differently in the sense of it's summertime and they're dressed more like it's fall or winter. Let them get buzzed in. Let it fall into somebody else's shoulders of what is he doing here? What is she doing here?
Yeah.
Find out maybe there's no reason for that person to even be at that building. So again, it's the assessment of what's going on. If you have somebody who's just playing around with their phone and not paying attention, they're missing out on clues that are there.
Yeah.
now here's one we deal with. That we're in a different part of security than you are, so we deploy security systems. What do you feel about glass doors? So, because we always have a statement in our business, which is it doesn't really matter how many mag locks or, how many card swipes or whatever you put in, your doors are made of glass. Right. Unless it's like bulletproof glass or some sort of plexiglass, it's not going to break easily. It's a rock or a stick away from just walking through, even without getting into the door.
Right.
Is that something that to harden a target they should be looking at? Having more steel doors, like that type of thing, or is that really kind of a, at that point, it's irrelevant?
I would say, and I won't get into the specifics for the school district, but we have, I believe it was made by 3M, don't quote me, but like bullet resistant, almost like window tint on our facilities. Not every window, but ones that we believe are more susceptible to probably something occurring. Businesses can look at that. Now, what it does is, as you heard me, it's bullet resistant. So several years ago, we had watched a video and attended a seminar on this, and somebody shoots through the glass. It took them about 30 to 40 seconds to penetrate that glass. Now, we know that 30 to 40 seconds, we can move a lot of people, whether it's children or adults. So again, if your business is sort of littered with glass, maybe you want to look into something like that. Because I think, again, the presentation of a building. You know, do you want all glass, you know, with some mixtures to it, or do you want all steel doors? You know, how's that going to look? You want it to be inviting and welcoming. You know, schools, houses of worship, libraries, things like that. You want you're a public entity. You know, you want it to, come on in. You know, we want you in here. So again, I remember it's not overly cheap, but again, it's all about buying the time. You know, if you have somebody who shows up and shoots through glass with a handgun, they might be in a matter of seconds. Where again, you now role play that out and say, okay, I'm going to shoot through this glass with a 40 caliber, 45 caliber gun. It's going to take me 35, maybe 40 seconds to clear out the glass and climb into this business. We know that we can get a good amount of students, a good amount of adults out of that area. You know, if you time it for 30 seconds, and again, part of this could be a drill at your place of employment. Okay, we're going to run a drill, and we know it's going to take at least 30 seconds for someone to get in here. Where has everybody moved in 30 seconds? So I think glass, yes, there's pros and cons to all that, but I think it looks welcoming and all, but then again, you should look at it and go, okay, can we put bullet resistant shielding this? And you don't really notice it. It's like a window tint, but it doesn't discolor it. You know, like window tint on vehicles, you go, oh, I can't really see that. It doesn't do anything like that. I know, you know, of businesses or schools that have it, and I know where it's at because I know what to look for, but to the naked eye, you don't really notice it.
You can't see it.
Right. Interesting.
So with the training, there's been a lot of conversations. You've got Alice, you've got Run, Hide, Fight, like all of this.
Yes.
Which do you think is most effective, and what is everybody kind of leaning towards now?
I think they can work together. Now, Alice is a big thing because now you're empowering your staff and your employees and your people to make their own decisions. You know, I think years ago it was, you know, we'll leave it up to a school district. We'll say, okay, the principal is making those decisions. Now we're saying, okay, you're using common terms. You know, if you have a guy come in, you're not going to say, in the cafeteria wing, there's a guy doing a Section 8. You know, none of that. You're going to say, listen, there's a white male wearing this. He's got a gun. He's in this part of the building. You're going to let those people make those decisions to get out. So Alice is more the prevalent one. But again, that is a acronym. But again, it doesn't fall into place. Like, you know, it's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. You might have to evacuate before you do anything else.
Yeah.
So again, it's not saying you have to go through a specific set of steps, but you're empowering your people to go ahead and make those decisions.
Okay.
And again, you're saying, look, if you can get out, then get out, and that's where you have your rally points. You know, you do your reunification, things along those lines. And again, that's where we talked about earlier in the podcast, is being able to call somebody and say, listen, I couldn't make it to the rally point. I'm at this place now, and I have every student accounted for. I've got every employee. I've got every patient, or whatever it may be.
So one of the things we talked about before was that every school has a unification, right? A reunification point.
That's correct.
We were surprised to find that out because we had never been told what that point is. Is that only told in the event of an emergency, or is that something we should be talking to principals about and knowing ahead of time?
So what will happen is when we do drills, whether it's at a school district or business, it's not something we would put out to the public because then they would know exactly where they're going. What we would do is in a situation, we would get students to this location, and then we would send out an alert to parents like, this is where we're going to meet. You have to bring ID, and that's how you're going to do it. So again, the bigger the school district, the bigger the business, you're going to have a longer drawn out time. You know, years ago when we had that incident at Southern, there was a reunification that was just done right there, but it was a very long process because you have to account for every student, and we know in the world we live in, if I give a student away to a parent without checking and there's a problem, we know what's going to happen. So again, parents have to be patient. They have to be understanding. Yes, we're going to get you connected with your child, your children, or how many kids you have in that part of the building or, you know, the business. We're going to do that, but yes, we know where the places are, and then we will notify you, like, hey, this is where you're going to meet us, you know, and bring ID, and then we'll have everything ready to go.
Okay, so for safety reasons, it's not told ahead of time, it's told
right. Now, we can,
in the event of...
you know, if the school wants to share that with the parents, that's fine, but again, we don't need you to come to that location until we're ready.
Gotcha, makes sense.
That could change, you know, let's just use a hypothetical. Let's just say we'll use Shiloh Hills. Let's just say our reunification is going to be at the waste yard facility because it's a large area owned by the township, but yet maybe something has pushed us away from there.
Yeah.
It could be maybe we're in the middle of now a thunderstorm and it's pouring rain. We might now have to move and get the buses out and now move to a location that's going to be dry. Again, what if we have something occur in the wintertime? We're not going to have kids standing outside in 25-degree weather. So, we might need to move this because of the environmental part of it. So there's a lot of fluid pieces to this that, now one of our reunification places for the high school is a large facility that is indoors. So we know that whether it's raining, snowing, we're going to be okay. But you get out to some of these other schools and businesses, they might not be prepared for that. We know that, yes, now we have a violent incident. We're going to start this. Now it's starting to thunderstorm and it's pouring rain. And, remember, we're writing stuff down and we're checking technology. We can't have it out in the rain. So we might have to move again. And part of that would be, let's get the school district to get the buses over here. We're going to move everybody from location A to location B because it's going to be drier. We can work indoors wherever it may be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great.
I did always kind of wonder about it. I did hear one thing from one of the school districts that said what they do is they'll have like 4 alternate locations they do announce ahead of time, but they don't say which they're using until there's an event.
Oh,
So at least you're aware of kind of what
These might be the places.
these might be the places, but at least I know where roughly they're going to be taken if there's an event, and then they'll text it out or call or whatever they're doing for their particular thing. I don't think this is the official Alice website. But
I believe it is, Craig.
Is that the official?
Is it alicetraining.com?
It is alicetraining.com. Okay, so that is the one?
Yes.
This is for anybody that's watching instead of just listening. Learning a little bit about Alice Training is not a bad idea. There is a lot of great information in how they put this program together. And now, do you guys teach Alice?
So, like I said in the beginning, myself, Jim Matthews, and Matt Kaiser are Alice certified. So, when I say there's a fee, Alice charges you a fee for this type of material. But as law enforcement officers, we come into your business or wherever it may be, and we supplement that training because some of it is e-learning and then some of it's in person. So again, you might sign up for Alice and you'll have, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 officers also doing that. Now, on the side note, the 3 officers that participate in this, we also do one that isn't Alice coordinated. It's just, we will go into a business in maybe like an hour to 2 hours. It all depends. And we'll go over active shooter type things and we'll go over statistics. And then, we'll say to people like, hey, again, if you have a medical facility, an accounting facility, like reach out to those other entities and see how they're handling it. Again, the main thing is the communication. And how are we handling situations with like patients or students or people that might have special needs?
Gotcha.
I know one of the things that after the event at the company I worked for, we formed committees. There was a safety committee, and we got additional. So everybody had to go through. At the time, it wasn't Alice training. We had to go through some kind of training, but then this committee, we went through even more, and we were like contact points for each one, and we had responsibilities. Is that something that you also help organizations and schools do?
Yes, we suggest, again, we can't force people to do anything.
Sure.
But again, the bigger the business, you might have to have more people involved. Again, like you said, having a committee, you might have to have, if you have a facility with 200 employees, you might have to have maybe 15, 20, 25 people sort of accounting for other people too. So again, the bigger the business, yes, there should be conversations about this because it's not just happening at certain places, it's happening everywhere. Again, the things you're rolling out to your business and your employees can be used to prepare their families and to use it out in the real world. Again, when you leave, if your shift is 7 to 3 at a business, at 3 o'clock you shouldn't stop thinking about active shooters or active incidents or violent incidents. You should be going, even on your drive home, you should be looking at your surroundings. You go out to dinner, look at your surroundings. Again, that prepares you mentally. That gets you into the feel of, yes, this is what I should be doing on a daily basis. And as a police officer, I do it, and it's just second nature to me. I'm used to looking at people. I'm used to going into the business. Where are the exits?
Right.
Does this person look out of sorts? Doesn't mean if something's going to happen, but you want to take note to that.
We're chewing through time here. We're pretty much done. I did have one final question for you. So we have, and this is actually more common than I thought it would have been until I started asking. We have a number of clients that
At Laughing Rock.
at Laughing Rock Technology, if a number of our clients, that if you've been with their company long enough, and if you have your permit, and if you've gone through the safety courses, they allow you to carry at work as part of their security policy. And they say you have to be, it's not like you got hired 2 weeks ago and now, come on. Do you guys support that type of behavior? Is that something you think is a bad policy? Like, what do you think about that?
I know a lot of times people ask me that question, and it's so hard to answer because if you've ever been in a traumatic incident or something that's occurring, you sort of get tunnel vision. And like I tell people, the last thing I want is for an innocent person to be shot by law enforcement or even by somebody else.
Gotcha.
I can't tell you what to do, but when law enforcement shows up and I see you waving a gun around or you point a gun at me, there might be a problem.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So again, if you've ever been in an incident where your heart's racing, the adrenaline's pumping, as a police officer, sometimes it's like this, you only see certain things because so much is going on. I just don't want to see somebody hurt or shot. But then on the flip side of that is you might have a person who is legally armed that can eliminate a threat before law enforcement gets there. But like I said, just my concern is that. So I'm really on the fence with it because I can't say, well, you should be doing this because that person might be able to eliminate that threat. There was just a recent shooting with one of the malls where a citizen eliminated that threat, and there could have been a lot more fatalities.
That was a teenager too, wasn't it? He was like a 17-year-old kid.
I try not to read too much of them, but like I said, I remember seeing that. But again, so it's, when we say about an active shooter and you take somebody down as a staff and the gun or the weapon is moved, we suggest you put it in a trash can or put it in an envelope and make sure it's not out. The last thing we want to do is come in and see somebody on the ground with 4 people on top and you holding a gun or pointing it. Because we're going to think maybe you're the person with the gun.
Right.
We might end up shooting you because of that situation. Not that we want to, but it might happen. So again, it would be almost that if we had a situation, please identify yourself and listen to our commands. Or even lay down on the ground and put the gun away and keep your hands to your side.
I think that's pretty good advice no matter what.
When I took a gun safety course, and that's exactly because they said the police don't know that you're the good guy with a gun, and they said as soon as the police come, you put your gun down, you lay down, or just like put your hands up because they don't know. And what's they showed a video of like a incident in it was like in a shopping center, like a Walmart, Target, and a shooter came in and he just started firing. And so there was a gentleman at the counter doing return, and he had a gun and he went after. But what he didn't realize is the guy that came in had a backup person, and she killed him right away. And he ended up dying trying to kill the shooter because he didn't take a step back and assess the situation. And if you watched it, you could have seen that the woman behind him, was pushing a shopping cart looking like she was just shopping, looked very innocent, not knowing what was going on. So
yeah, and part of that could be that you have a situation where, let's just say you pull a gun and you're now standing there with the gun and somebody's walking by and they realize something's going on and it's calling. Now they're giving your description. That he's the guy with it. And now we're walking in and seeing you with it. So again, there's so many things that could happen. And again, nothing's perfect. So, but you don't know what somebody else is viewing. You could have just taken a guy down who came in with a weapon, and you're standing there, holding your gun, pointing at it. And she might only, you might have somebody walking by and see you pointed a gun, like, oh my gosh, there's this guy. He's pointing a gun. This is what he's wearing. Like, stay on the phone with us. And we get there, we think you're the person.
Right.
So again, there's so many things that could go wrong, and so many things that could go right.
Interesting. Well, we are out of time. Did you have anything final, Lisa Marie?
no, thank you.
Did you have anything final, Officer Johnson?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. I really enjoy this. I think it's something that should be, people should be aware of.
Well, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the information. I learned so much in these things. So, and for anybody watching, thank you for making it to this point. So, have a great day. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon.
Yep, I appreciate it.
All right.